get to the art part. I found something interesting today. This is a sketch. I did this sketch, I don't know, a year ago, roughly, okay? Right now, this is insanity. There's nothing but scribble here. This is like Cy Twombly. You know, it's just a bunch of kindergarten-looking marks. But does it mean something? Ask an astrophysicist. Have them look at this and ask them if they could find within this space how the universe functions. Because I put it all in here. That's what it means. This is an explanation of some of the functionality within the universe. So that's what's going on here. Now, the interesting thing that I found today is this. This is one of my paintings that's a painting of consciousness. I started these a few years ago, and I've been working on it for over 30 years. I've been thinking about consciousness and how that develops and mapping consciousness. Not mapping an individual consciousness, but like a general consciousness. How does the universe work? Does the universe itself have consciousness? Do people, animals, things, what has consciousness? How does that work? So I've been looking at that kind of thing, and this is what I found. I found a way to draw it out, to map it out. Well, this is just one of those pieces. But the interesting one, I didn't try it with many. I don't know if you could see this one really well, because it's black. But, you know, dark on dark. But this one is kind of like that white one I just showed you. The cool part is that I just did this one a few weeks ago, and look what happens. Can you see this? What happens when you, sorry about the light, but what happens when you layer these things? I did them over a year apart, and let me try to line it up just a little bit better. This is what's going to happen. Do you see how things line up? That matters because over a distance of time, these things wound up lining up. Like, look at the precision of this line, right? That line in itself, and how other things wind up lining up as a layer after a year, in a year's space in between those two things. So I thought it was a really interesting thing of how things can align, and as misaligned as it seems, it actually isn't. Ask an astrophysicist. It's I don't know how much art they understand, because they may not focus on art. You know, some people who focus on science don't necessarily focus on art. And on some levels, those two things are so far apart. They're not expressive in the same way. They're generally not about the same thing, whatever. But my art is. My art for a span of 30 years, even though it doesn't look like it in the beginning, because the beginning pieces, they were about love. They were about emotion, expression, humanity. The parts of humanity that compose what we are as human beings. So as consciousness. And those pieces, sometimes they're in a very literal shape, like a heart. And sometimes they're, I don't know, somewhat derivative of reality, even though they're abstract, even though they're distant, sometimes minimal. But even within the symbolism of the minimalism, the depth of it is like hieroglyphs, essentially. So that's how I wound up being able to understand some hieroglyphs without studying hieroglyphs at all.